You're gonna ask me for a divorce so you could be with some fucking fuckhead Brian Spear? Are you kidding me? Who are you? The only thing I know for sure is you're a goddamn liar. So what do you have to say for yourself? You should go ahead and make a little joke. Tell me that I got it all wrong. Tell me again that I'm too out of touch with my feelings and I need to go to therapy. Isn't the idea of marriage to make your partner's way in life a little easier? For me, it was always harder with you, and you're still making it harder. Lying there on a ventilator and fucking up my life. You are relentless. You know what? I was going to ask you for a divorce someday. Daddy's little girl.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Untitled Movie Show. My name's Brad. How are you today? This show is on the same feed as my other show, the Eric and Brad Show. However, for this show, it's just me. Just me talking about movies. And today, we're talking about The Descendants. Woo! The movie called The Descendants. I just finished the rewatch just a couple minutes ago. And it's still good. It's still a good one. Thank you so much for joining me today. Subscribe and follow and email. Just go ahead and email ericandbradshow@gmail.com. And I'll see it at some point. Or comment. Just comment and tell me what you thought and any movie you want me to do or something like that. Doesn't mean I'll necessarily do it, because I'm only doing specific movies. However, you might remind me of a movie that I'd like to do. Anyway, today we're talking about The Descendants. Aloha. Son of a bitch. I was going to say aloha in the beginning and not hello. I must be a mainlander. God damn it. So, The Descendants. It's a movie from 2011, which is 10 years ago from right now. And I have to say this. I don't know why. I mean, I don't have to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway in case somebody stumbled across this and isn't familiar with the show. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Because I'll be spoiling this movie. I've definitely listed it in like my top 5 favorite movies, around like Lost in Translation or American Beauty and some others. I don't know. But to put it as like a number 2 or number 3 on my list, I'm fine with. Because it's great and I've seen it a lot and it has that rewatchability for me personally. So it's up there in my rankings. I mean, it's one of my favorites. And just like Lost in Translation, I feel like it's kind of like a sad, not so happy movie in a beautiful place, because this movie, The Descendants, was shot in Hawaii. It takes place in Hawaii. And it's not your typical Hawaii movie. It's not like a vacation movie. It's about dealing with very serious things. And it just takes place in Hawaii. So, and it, which is a beautiful place, which, the backdrop of the story being told is in a quote unquote paradise. And I do like that. We'll talk more about Hawaii in a little bit. But it does kind of just keep that theme. Manchester by the Sea is another movie I feel is kind of shot in a beautiful place. Lost in Translation, The Descendants, and so on. There's other movies as well. So let's get going here. The Descendants is a 2011 American comedy drama film directed by Alexander Payne. The screenplay by Payne, Nat Faxon, and Jim Rash is based on the 2007 novel of the same name by Cowie Hart Hennings. The film stars George Clooney, Shailene Woodley, Amara Miller, Beau Bridges, Judy Greer, Matthew Lillard, and Robert Forster, and was released by Fox Searchlight Pictures in the United States on November 18th, 2011, after being screened at the 2011 Toronto International Film Festival. I didn't see this movie in 2011. I can't remember when I saw it. I think I might have seen it around 2014. I don't remember why I watched it. But unlike Lost in Translation, which I hated kind of when I first watched it, I liked this one pretty much instantly. It had me hooked in pretty much immediately. It's 1 hour 55 minutes long. Not mad at that. Even a little bit. I mean, I guess it kind of feels like it's 2 hours long. It doesn't really feel like it's 2 hours long. I just sat here and rewatched it. I just sat here at my desk in my podcast studio and watched the whole thing. And, was dicking around on my phone and stuff. But I rewatched that. 2 hours, perfect. It's pretty perfect for this movie. Budget of $20 million and box office $177 million. Woo! That's pretty good. That's extremely successful, right? $20 million. I mean, that seems reasonable, I guess. You got a big name. You got George Clooney in the fucking thing, and Hawaii's. No one's ever said Hawaii's a cheap place to live for a month or 2 months or 3 months or however long it took. So $20 million. And box office $177 million. It was a big hit in the year 2011. We'll get into that. So George Clooney is the star of the show, and George Clooney is an interesting one because he started on the show ER, and it took him a long time. I was going to look up what age he started, because I know he started when he was older, when he was like 40 or something, or might have not been 40, but kind of an older start for an actor. But he started on that show ER, which I've never seen, but it's just another one of them hospital shows. But it was big in the 90s, right? And in the 90s, TV wasn't like A-list actors would do TV, like a Tom Cruise or something. It's wouldn't do like a TV show. Even though now, these days, every actor's doing TV, because it's just going on streaming services, and it's like TV shows, quote unquote TV shows or series, are better than most movies. But back then, it was like, if you're doing TV, you're not going to be taken as a serious actor. So it took him a long time to be taken as a serious actor. Now he's taken as a serious actor, but he did ER for a long time, and then he did like that Batman and Robin movie, which is not a good movie. It's a terrible fucking movie, and Batman fans hate George Clooney as Batman. That movie's just god awful. He did that, and he did like From Dusk Till Dawn, which, let's just be honest, not that good of a movie. Kind of an interesting watch once, but it's like, I'm not a fan. And then in like the year 2000, he did The Perfect Storm, which was a big movie. He did Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And I think there you go. There you have the first time he was probably started to be taken as a serious actor. Like, wow, because that was a big George Clooney movie, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And people were like, this is a good movie, and he's really good in it. Because The Perfect Storm, I mean, whatever. And then Ocean's 11, 2001, that's another good one. And then I feel like he started his climb up, like an uphill battle to become a serious actor. And in 2009, the movie Up in the Air, which I really liked at the time, I watched it a bunch. George Clooney, Anna Kendrick, Vera Farmiga, a few good people in that movie. But that was like a huge moment for him, because that's when he got a Best Actor nomination at the Academy Awards for the first time, in that Up in the Air movie. So I mean, that's pretty much when he's now climbed the mountaintop to hit 2009 to get that Best Actor nomination. It's like, oh, now he's 100% a serious actor at this point. And then Shailene Woodley is in this, plays his daughter, Alex King. And looking up her sort of history of working, I mean, it says she started acting at like 4 years old in like commercials and shit. So she was born in 1991, which I was too. She's had lots of TV credits from like 1999 to 2007. Nothing. I mean, just like guest star on Everybody Loves Raymond as like some little girl, some daughter, and like all these weird random just guest appearances on TV shows and stuff. And The Descendants, this movie was listed as her third movie she ever did. First two movies, never even heard of them. One of them didn't even have a Wikipedia page. So this is pretty much it, like the debut of Shailene Woodley, who's now been in a shitload of movies and shows and stuff like that, and is a pretty giant female movie star today. Like if you listed the biggest female movie stars, like she's up there. But this in 2011, I consider sort of the debut. I'm not counting all those little guest appearances on TV shows and stuff like that. And she was in the show Big Little Lies on HBO. I think there were 2 seasons. Yeah, there was 2 seasons of that show, and then they stopped filming it. But she's cast alongside like Nicole Kidman, Reese Witherspoon, and that's a really good show. The Big Little Lies. That's an intense fucking show, and she plays like this young single mom, and that's a very good show. And Shailene Woodley's been in a lot of other stuff that's really good. And in this movie, she does a phenomenal job. It's like she's pretty fucking perfectly cast in this, and she steals scenes from everybody, and she's fucking extremely attractive, for one. For two, like extremely talented as well. We'll talk more about that, but there is nothing to be said bad about her as far as this performance goes. It's like she's a huge draw in this film, definitely. And then Matthew Lillard is in it too, and he's been a working actor for, I mean, over 20 years. He's been in so much stuff. It said he'd been in all like the Scream movies and stuff, which, you know, take a guess if I'd be a big fan of the Scream movies. I sort of know him as like he played Shaggy in the fucking live action Scooby-Doo movies, and he was in that movie Without a Paddle with Dax Shepard and Seth Green. And he's definitely a big comedy actor, like a very goofy comedy actor, not a serious actor. But the role in this movie was extremely serious, and he did a really good job. And I get that everyone says it's kind of not believable for him to be cast in this because of sort of how the plot is, but I think they're just giving him a hard time. I think it makes sense. It's just people just giving him a hard time. But he does a really good job in this fucking movie, Matthew Lillard. So now I equate him, with this movie and Without a Paddle and Scooby-Doo. But I think he does a great job in this movie, and he's not really in it that much. He's in it for like maybe 2 scenes. But he does play a very important role in it. So Los Angeles Times, Best Film of 2011. New York Times, Best Film of 2011. New York Post, Best Film of 2011. It was, in 2011, a lot of people's favorite movie of the year. It was the front runner for the awards, for the Oscars. I mean, winning awards all over the place and stuff like that. It was a giant movie, and the movies that year weren't really that strong, I feel like, looking at them. I could be a little wrong on that, but they weren't like huge. You didn't have a huge fucking movie. And this was kind of the Oscar front runner and stuff like that. It was a giant movie that year. So there's another thing with me, and it's where I have a little bit of sort of hate for Hawaii. Now, the thing, and it's just my bias, and it's nothing to do with the people of Hawaii, the kingdom of Hawaii, the natives, or anything like that. It's to do with the goddamn people here that like to visit there and how annoying they get. And in all the movies you've seen that are on Hawaii, like Adam Sandler's done multiple movies there, and it's not like the movies that take place there. This is so different than all of them. This is like you see the traffic, you see the homeless, you see people just living their lives just like how we do in the mainland, the 48 state mainland. And the movie opens with him narrating, saying like, people think that we just like we're just on a constant vacation here. He's like, I haven't been on a surfboard in 15 fucking years. We live the same lives as they do, and it's like the same bullshit. And that's really nice. So they did Hawaii a big favor, in my opinion. The people that don't, and I remember the moment, it was in 2014, I think, I was listening to this fucking girl talk next to me, and I worked with her. And she was talking about her visiting Hawaii, and I really hated this person badly. I hated her before she started talking about Hawaii, but then she was talking about it, and just the way she was talking about it, it made me so angry. I was like, shut the fuck up. Oh my God. You're talking, just the way she was talking about it, I'm like, shut up, dude. Stop. You sound so stupid. Just being like, she was just basically saying about what she likes to do there when she goes vacation there. And it's like, oh my God. It just drives me nuts. And it's like, people are like, yeah, we went on vacation to Hawaii. It's like, oh, that's original. Where did you get that idea? Can't you like pick somewhere a little more creative? And it's like saying we went to Disneyland. It's like Disneyland of the kind of most unoriginal vacation destinations. Number 2, Hawaii. It has nothing to do with the people that live there or anything that's there. It's the stupid people here that are just like, it just drives me nuts. And it's like, can't you think of something else? Jamaica, Mexico, freaking, you can go to Cuba now, Puerto Rico. Like, there's so many better, there has to be so many better places. Oh, you're just going back to Hawaii. It's like, but that's just me, right? I'm sure it's a great place. And, it looks like a great place. And I would go there. But if I had to list my top 5, my top 10 even places to vacation, it wouldn't be on the list. But I get that that's just me. I'm just have a skewed view because of the way that stupid people here talk about their trips there. It just drives me nuts. But I'm sure it's a great place. And this is a great movie. And it makes me feel like it paints a better picture for me of Hawaii than the retards here that talk about vacationing there. But I love the natives of Hawaii, Hawaiian people. I have zero problem with them. Zero. I'm sure it's a great place. Anyway, so the movie received acclaim for Clooney's performance, Payne's direction and writing, and Kevin Tent's editing. The film was nominated for 5 Oscars at the 84th Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor for Clooney, and it won for Best Adapted Screenplay. Best Adapted Screenplay, like screenplay adapted from a book, which is it was adapted from a book that was written in 2007. And the movie lost Best Picture to the movie called The Artist, which is a silent film. In 2011, they made a silent film, a black and white film with no sound. And I've never seen it, but I'm kind of curious actually to see it. So it sucks when you kind of lose to a silent film in 2011. You're like, shit. They just gave it to them because they're more artistic. But I'm kind of curious to actually see that movie. And then George Clooney lost Best Actor to the main star in The Artist. So it sounds to me like the movie The Artist just swept the fucking awards that year, the Academy Awards. But George Clooney, second time he was nominated for Best Actor. Pretty cool. Because this is like a career high performance for him in this movie. Up in the Air was a hugely loved performance by him, but this one was higher than that. He took it up another notch for sure. So Shailene Woodley plays his daughter. There's another daughter of his named Scotty, which I feel is a kind of a weird name for a girl. Shailene Woodley plays a 17-year-old. She was 19 or 18 in real life. She played a 17-year-old. And Scotty plays, or the character of Scotty is a 10-year-old. So George Clooney has a 10-year-old, a 17-year-old, and hang on, I'll get back to that. But he has the 10-year-old and the 17-year-old. And in this movie, his name's Matt King, and he's really barely holding it fucking together. Like, it's really this. It sort of starts, and you're like, I don't really know where this is going. But then as it progresses, more things just start unraveling, and it really covers a whole wide variety of issues and problems that a family can go through. Like, really crazy. It's just one layer after the other. And it's like, as soon as you hear the first problem, you're like, oh, the movie's about this. And then you hear the next one and you're like, oh, okay, so the movie's about two big problems. And then the next one, and you're like, damn, they're actually dealing with a lot of problems. And it's really cool to see George Clooney's character, Matt King, sort of just trying to hold it all together. Like, just barely keeping his head above water. Like, barely. And it's a little inspiring of just the whole idea of you just have to roll with the punches. And you'll get through it. Just keep rolling with the punches as they're coming at you, and you'll get through it. Like, it comes in waves, and this is a giant wave for this family of Matt King, Alex King, and Scotty King, the dad and the two daughters. So let's get into it. They live on Oahu, just to be specific, the Big Island. And the movie starts out with a boat accident. You don't really see the boat accident, but you see the wife, Elizabeth, riding on this boat. She's having a good time. You can see Hawaii in the background. It's just a shot of her as a passenger on a boat. And then you see that she is then in a coma, and she was in a boating accident where she hit her head. And she is the wife of the George Clooney character and the mother of the two daughters. And you're like, damn. So she's in a coma with, like, the thing beeping. Beep, beep, beep in the hospital. And then it goes to George Clooney, and he's like... And he's already kind of just like, oh, okay, he's dealing with this thing of his wife in the hospital. And it's just him and Scotty, the 10-year-old daughter. And it starts with him having to talk to her teachers and her principal and the mother of another girl in school with her. And she's really acting out already. She's bringing pictures of her mom in a coma to the school and showing her friends. And she's bullying over text this other girl. And she's already like... kind of acting up, probably since her mom's in a coma, and she's just a 10-year-old girl. I mean, how are you supposed to handle it, right? And it's just George Clooney and the Scotty daughter. And then you learn that George Clooney is going through this 25,000-acre sale on Kauai, another island, the island over. And apparently he's sort of the trustee or the main person in charge of selling these 25,000 acres to sell to developers for, like, hotels and resorts. It's him and all of his cousins. And there's like 20 of his cousins. Like, him and all of his cousins own 25,000 acres on Kauai. But he is sort of the sole person who signs yes or no if we're going to sell or not. But him and all of his cousins own it together. And when they sell it to these developers to build, like, casinos or resorts or whatever, they're all going to get super fucking rich, right? They're all going to become millionaires. But it's been passed down from, like, great grandfather, because they're, like, descendants, quote, like, Descendants, like the movie. They're descendants of, like, Hawaiian royalty who owned those 25,000 acres, and it's been passed down to them, and now they own it, which is pretty cool. And it's a beautiful piece of land. They go out there at one point in the movie. It's like, incredible, and they can picture all the resorts and stuff going up. But you can already see that the locals hate this idea, because the locals are like, just the traffic alone is going to kill us. We don't need more fucking construction, more people coming here, and more traffic, and more bullshit, this and that and whatever. Like, they'd rather it just, maybe everything on the island doesn't need to become a fucking resort. Maybe we can just keep some of it as beautiful land. And that's very relatable to a lot of us who are dealing with out-of-towners coming in, buying up stuff and ruining it. So the locals are kind of like, hey, Matt King, like, I hope you don't sell it, man. Like, but then all of his cousins, his 20 cousins, are like, yeah, man, sell it, let's make this fucking money. And his plan in the beginning of the movie is, yeah, we're gonna sell, we're gonna sell it, but we're gonna sell it. So he's dealing with the wife in a coma from a boat accident, and this giant sale of the land that everybody knows about. Everybody knows this family. Everybody knows Matt King because he owns all this land, and it's a big, huge, monumental thing for the island, for the state of Hawaii. And then he learns that the wife isn't going to wake up from a coma. He and her both put in their wills not to be kept on life support, and she's currently on life support. So he learns that the doctors are like, we're going to pull the plug in a couple days because that's what's in her will. Our hands are tied. We have to pull the plug in a couple days. So it's really sad. It's like, oh, man. And he clearly is like, he says like he's the backup parent. He's the understudy. He's not the person that's been involved with these two daughters their whole life. He's been like the working guy, the working husband, and the mother has clearly been sort of the hands-on parent with these daughters. So the daughter Scotty, the 10-year-old's like acting up and stuff. He's like, I don't even know what to do with this girl and stuff like that. He's like, I just don't know, because he clearly hasn't been like that main parent. He's been the backup parent. And now the main parent, who's been the child raiser, is going to die because they're going to pull the plug. So then he tells the daughter, Scotty, he's like, let's go to the private school and get your sister and bring her back here because we're all here with Mom, who's in a coma. She should be here too. So they go to the private school, get her, Shailene Woodley, who's the 17-year-old at this private school. They show up. She's drunk. She's like, fuck Mom. I don't give a shit about her. And it's like, oh, fuck, dude. So now you have the 10-year-old acting up and the 17-year-old's all drunk and fuck Mom. Fuck you and Mom, or whatever. Let's see. And then there's a scene where she comes back to the house. They have a pool in the backyard. George Clooney tells her while she's in the pool, and the Scotty 10-year-old daughter's not there. He tells her, like, Mom's gonna die. We're pulling the plug on her in a couple days. This is what we have to do. We have no choice. And then she like goes underwater and like cries under the pool, but it's a really crazy intense shot. And there's a little more details about it later, but it's like, damn, that's a good shot. And I feel like once they get the 17-year-old Alex King and bring her back to the house, the movie starts picking up a little bit more because you have her in there now, and she's like a huge part of the movie. Just her and George Clooney, the older daughter. But he tells her, and he's the first person she tells. He hasn't told anybody else. He just knew it. So now he tells her because he's like, I need your help. I need your help telling people. We have to tell your mom's friends. We have to tell your mom's parents. We have to tell grandma and grandpa that their daughter's going to die. And we have to deal with Scotty. Tell her. I don't even know how we're going to do that. But he's like, I need your help, really. Because he does. He's like flailing around like, I don't know. I'm trying to just juggle all this bullshit. But that pool scene was intense. And then she gets out of the pool, she's still crying, and he goes up to her and like opens his arms, and then she's just like, What do you want? And like walks away, and you're just like, oh my God, dude, it's really sort of uncomfortable, but just like she's just pissed. And he's like doesn't know what to. He's like a hug, like he doesn't know what to do. Like the whole movie is him kind of trying to learn who these people are, like his two daughters. He's trying to like learn who the hell they are, and they're all trying to learn really who each other is. You can really tell with this family, like before this boating accident, you can tell like he was just focused on work. He is a lawyer, and the 17-year-old is off at a private boarding school. And then what I'm thinking is the mom and the daughter, Scotty, the 10-year-old, sort of just did their own thing together. And that was sort of Scotty's person in life. So it was really broken already. I mean, in more ways than one, as we'll find out here in a little bit. It was broken in a lot of ways. But it was pretty fragmented and no communication, because this is like an awakening for Matt King to learn about this goddamn family and like check himself in life, because he's kind of been asleep for the last fucking 18 years, it seems like. So, yeah, it's just really hard for him to tell the 17-year-old, but he's like, I need your help. I need another person here to help me out. And then they go inside after the pool scene, and Alex tells him, yeah, mom was cheating on you. And that's why I'm so pissed off at her and why I don't give a fuck about her. She was cheating on you. And he's like, oh my God. So now you're dealing with the mom's in a coma. The person who was cheating on you is in a coma. Like, so you can be mad at her, but you can't really be mad at, I mean, you can be mad at her, but it's like you're not going to get anything from her, like a reasoning or anything like that. So it's really crazy. And Alex is like, yeah, I saw her with this guy. They were going into a house. He had his hand on her ass. Like, it was disgusting. I confronted her about it. And then I said, like, fuck you, and went back to school. And that was like the last interaction they had. And it's like, Jesus Christ. So the mom in a coma was cheating on George Clooney. So, and Alex, the daughter, really resents the mom for doing it. Like, while she's been off at this boarding school, while she might have not had a great relationship with her mom or dad, she clearly has sided with dad, with George Clooney, because she's like, how could you do this to him? How could you treat him like this? He's a good guy. He's a decent person, and you cheated on him. She ain't fucking with it. She's not with it at all. So she's really pissed. And it's cool to see, and this is probably what would happen. Well, the thing is, it probably did happen, because the book was written by, I think, the lady who went through this in some way or another, based on a true story. And it's like the 17-year-old is going to be pissed. The 10-year-old is just going to be acting out and sort of goofing around in really goofy, weird ways, like bringing pictures of her mom in a coma to show kids at school with like tubes down her throat. Like, she just doesn't really know what's going on. And the 17-year-old is just pissed, and the dad's sort of just like trying to hold everything together. And it's like, that's exactly what would happen. So then Alex, the 17-year-old, brings her friend Sid over, and Sid's this kid, this like stoner hippie Hawaiian kid or whatever, and he's kind of cool, and he's like basically the comic relief for the movie. My fucking video's all blurry. There we go. And he's really just the comic relief. Just like, hey man, I'm a decent guitar player, man, and I always got weed. And it's like, okay, this fucking kid. But he just tags along with them then for the rest of the movie, just as a comic relief, as someone to make you laugh. But it turns out, a little later on, his story is actually a lot deeper as well. And there's some depth to that character, even though he's just some goofy kind of beach bum, it seems like. But he's really cool to have around. So they all go to meet the grandparents, and the grandpa is played by Robert Forster, who's this legendary actor. I think he recently passed away. He was in Jackie Brown. I mean, scrolling through his filmography, you have to scroll like four or five times. He's been in hundreds of movies, it seems like, and he's been in just so much shit. He does a really good job in this movie. But every time they come in, I think he only has 2 or 3 scenes, but every time he's there, he just berates George Clooney's character, like, relentlessly. He's just like, they see him and they're like, hey, how's it going? And they're like, good. And he's like, she deserves so much better than you. So much better. She deserved a good person. All you care about is money. Why was she on that boat? You should have bought her own boat. You should have been driving. Like, you shouldn't have let her do that. If you were only different, she wouldn't be in the situation. And you're just like, dude, lay off just a little bit. And George Clooney is just like, yeah, okay, whatever you say, man. And the whole thing is, the whole movie, George Clooney could just say to her, you know what? Your daughter was fucking cheating on me. But he doesn't. He never does that, because he's just like this old man this old senile man just like, just let him fucking say it. And he's just like, she deserves so much better than you, Matt. She should have married that other guy. You know, you never cared about her. You never treated her right. She's a good, faithful woman. And he's just like, yeah, okay, whatever you say, man. He's like, all you care about is money. Million here, million there. You don't care. You didn't care about your wife. And it's like, dude, fucking lay off just for a second. It's just relentlessly crazy. But he plays a great role of just an old, angry man who's just I don't know. He just not a good perspective. He's just angry. But through the whole movie, George Clooney, it's like right there, you could see it, and you kind of almost want the George Clooney character to be like, you know what? She was fucking cheating on me, dude. Like, she wasn't this angel you paint her out to be, okay? So fuck, you just want him to do that, but he's like, no, I'm not going to ruin this guy's daughter, this guy's dying daughter for him, or whatever. And the grandma has Alzheimer's, clear, like hardcore Alzheimer's. She doesn't know who anybody is. She doesn't remember her daughter. She doesn't remember Matt King or her grandkids or whatever. And that's really sad. And that's really just barely peppered in. But they're just dealing with that as well when they deal with the grandparents. So then they find the guy who the wife was cheating with. And his name's Brian Spear. And that's who Matthew Lillard plays. And that's what people's criticism was like, why would this lady cheat on George Clooney with Matthew Lillard? And it's like, yeah, I guess I get that, but there's more. There's more to why someone just cheats than looks, right? So whatever. They're just giving him a hard time. He plays a great role. But they just find out who he is. They're like, this Brian Spear guy. We found his name. And you know, Brian Spear. They don't like bump into him yet. But they make a decision because they realize Brian Spear. They call his office, and his assistant's like, yeah, he's over on Kauai, that other island, the island where the 25,000 acres of land they own is. So George Clooney and the two daughters and Sid, the friend, is like, let's go to Kauai and find this guy and confront him and tell him that the chick he's been banging, George Clooney's wife, is dying now, because he probably doesn't know. But let's go find that fucking cocksucker and tell him what's going on. So they jump on a plane, fly over to Kauai, and then there's a scene, they rent a hotel, and there's a scene where George Clooney can't sleep, and that Sid kid's awake, the stoner kid, and they sit down, and George Clooney's just like, you know, how's my daughter even really dealing with all of this stuff? And the kid's like, we don't talk about serious stuff. We deal with the serious stuff by talking about other stuff. And George Clooney's like, well, you know, you're miles from smart, kid. You're really not that great. And the kid's like, well, he's like, yeah, I bet your mother's proud. And he's like, well, who knows? Maybe she is. She's busy dealing with my dad that died a couple months ago in a drunk driving accident. Well, actually, both drivers were drunk. And George Clooney's kind of just staring at him like, oh, shit. There is a lot more to you than I thought. Because the whole time he was just being like this happy-go-lucky stoner kid. Little did fucking everybody know that his dad just died a couple months ago. So maybe it's kind of good to have him around and go through this whole process with this family. He can help them, and maybe they can help him too. So that's a really cool scene, and you kind of see, oh, Sid's actually not just, you know, one layer or one dimension. And then Matt King actually finds out through one of the cousins that Brian Spear is a real estate agent, and Brian Spear turns out to be the real estate agent that's dealing with the sale of the 25,000 acres. Son of a bitch. Because George Clooney's character, Matt King, was just sort of dealing with the purchaser, the client, and didn't really know about who his real estate agent was, because it's in that big of a deal, like, it's about the client. It's not about like the real estate agent. You're picking who you want to sell to. And then he finds out, holy shit, Brian Spear is the real estate agent dealing with the sale of the 25,000 acres. And Brian Spear is set to make a fortune on the deal by just handling the transaction. It's like, holy shit. So that happens. And then they find Brian Spear's house. So they roll up to his house and knock on the door. Brian Spear has a wife. played by, I think her name is Julie Greer or Judy Greer. She's been in a lot of shit. They find Brian Spears' house, roll up, knock on the door, and they get the wife to go away for a second, and they tell him, like, hey, we know what you did. My wife's Elizabeth King. We know you've been fucking her. She's dying, so if you want to go say goodbye to her, you can. We came here to tell you about it. Oh, and also fuck you. And he's like, oh my God, I never meant for it to come to this. Like, I was just banging your wife. I didn't know that it would come to this. And they meet Brian Spears' wife, but they don't tell her, once again, how George Clooney could just tell the dad, like, hey, look, your wife's not that great. It's not my fault. She's fucking dying. You want him to do that, and you kind of want him to almost blow up Brian Spears' life and tell the wife, oh, your husband's been cheating on you. But they don't do that. They don't blow up his life. He's got 2 sons. He's got the wife, so they just talk to him and not the wife. And then at one point, George Clooney asks, he's like, one more question. Have you ever been in my bedroom? And Brian Spears like, once. And George Clooney's like, wow, you could have left that part. You could have lied about that. And then Brian Spears like, twice. He's like, oh my God. And that's fucking weird, to talk to the guy and been like, to talk to a dude and been like, have you been in my bedroom? He's like, yeah, twice. It's like, holy fuck, dude. All over this woman that's in a coma. And then you get to the cousins all getting together to vote on to sell or not sell the 25,000 acres. And obviously George Clooney is sort of the main person that this falls upon. It's him. He needs to make it official himself, but all the other 20 cousins own it. I guess he said to them, let's vote, and what the majority votes, all do. So they get together, have a cookout, and they all put a little sticky note in the hat of their vote. The vote is overwhelmingly yes to sell the land. So then he's sitting there, and they're like, all right, here's the paper, here's the pen, make it official, Matt. And he picks it up, and he's looking at the line, and the line that he's supposed to sign on, and then he's just like, I can't do it. I'm not going to sell it. And they're like, what? What do you mean you're not going to sell it? Your whole plan was to sell it. He's like, I'm not doing it. And it's so crazy because it's like, imagine if that was your cousin, and you're there, and you're like ready, like, come on, dude. We're not using the land. Let's make the payday. We need the money. Like, they're not all as rich as him. They're clearly all just sort of regular people. So some of them probably have debt and car payment and all this stuff. And they're like, let's sell the land. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not fucking signing it. And he's like, it's crazy that we even came to own this land. Like, we didn't do anything to earn it. And let's just keep it. Because the whole state's going to be relieved. So it's like the perspective of, if that was your cousin being like, yeah, I'm not fucking selling it. You'd be like, I'd be so fucking mad at that guy. I'd be like, fuck you, dude. Seriously? Then fucking pay me out of your fucking account or whatever. Sell it, because I want to fucking sell it. Like, you would be like, let's just make the payday. We're not doing anything with the land. But if you think about the aspect of the state, then he did a good thing for the entire state as opposed to just his 20 greedy cousins. And his cousins are even like, we'll come after you. You better lawyer the fuck up. And then they're like, but come on, we're family. You'll want to sell it. We're family. This is a good thing. But we're going to come after you. And it's like, they really want that money and they really want to sell. But the whole state doesn't want to sell. So if you own 25,000 acres in a beautiful state, the noble thing to do would be like, I'm not fucking selling it. Fuck you. I'm not doing it for money. Like, we're going to keep this land and pass it on to the next generation, just like the fucking previous 6 generations did or whatever. But that's an interesting thing. And that took a lot of guts to do that, to be like, I'm not selling it. But I would probably sell it because I'd want the money. But you'd probably feel like a piece of shit for what you did to the locals there. You really, really fuck them over by doing it. But he didn't do it. He's like, I'm not doing it. No. So that happens. And then they final goodbyes to the mom, and it shows them out in a canoe spreading her ashes in the ocean. And then a really nice final shot of them sitting on the couch together. Matt King, Alex King, Scotty King. And they're all under one quilt, this quilt that was on the mom's hospital bed while she was in a coma. Now they're back at the house, all eating ice cream, and watching a movie. And it's like, they went through a lot. They fucking learned who each other were. And maybe there's good things ahead. Maybe this was just a wave of bad stuff, and it's all over now. And it's really just a fascinating movie. How it just barely feels two-dimensional once you start it with the boating accident. You're like, this whole movie is going to be about the mom's coma, and then you deal with so many more issues. And I thought I wrote this down. I don't know. People always laugh about scenes of him running down the street in flip-flops. I don't think they intended to make it funny, but it's fucking hilarious. There's a lot of really funny scenes in this movie. They even called it a comedy drama. Yeah, comedy drama film. There's a lot of really funny scenes, but then a lot of really serious shit, and you're like, damn, it really portrays it well. Some trivia. When Matt King describes his inherited wealth, he says, "I don't want my daughters growing up entitled and spoiled. And I agree with my father. You give your children enough money to do something, but not enough money to do nothing." And that is actually a Warren Buffett quote from 1986. He said he's setting up his heirs with a lifetime, setting up his heirs with a lifetime supply of food stamps just because they came out of the right womb can be harmful for them. To him, the perfect amount to leave children is, quote, enough money so that they would feel they could do anything, but not enough so that they could do nothing. Because he's clearly inherited a lot of wealth and stuff like that, but he just says he doesn't want his daughters growing up entitled and spoiled. Leave your children enough money to do something, but not enough to do anything. George Clooney was attracted to the part because he so often played characters that have their act together. The character of Matt clearly does not. He is just really trying to keep his head above water, which is a great role. One of the first scenes shot in production was Shailene Woodley crying underwater in the pool in a November 2020 interview, which was like 8 months ago. That's really weird. George Clooney recalls, he said, "I've never seen anything like it in my life. I said to her, look, I don't know what's going to happen with this film, but don't worry about your career." He's very right about that. That was, that was very aware in the moment. And that's a weird shot, and it's really uncomfortable shot for me because I don't like people crying. It's really awkward when people cry. I just want to walk away. I don't want to be around them. And there's a lot of times in movies when fucking someone's crying and the camera's just right on their face and it won't go away. And it's like, it just makes it uncomfortable. But that's a really interesting shot, and that's crazy. That's one of the first scenes shot in the movie. I enjoy the movie. I like the movie. I've watched it a lot. I'll happily watch it again. It's not exactly what you would call an ensemble cast, but it's kind of an ensemble cast. A lot of heavy hitters in there. And the fact that it's just the debut of Shailene Woodley, it's like, she's going to be around for the rest of our lives. And she does such an amazing job in this movie. She didn't get like a supporting actress nomination at the Academy Awards, I don't think. But it showed she got a lot of other awards for the movie. And I ain't never seen that movie, The Artist, but I would have to say this movie is probably better than that. I don't think a lot of people are rewatching The Artist in 2021 because it's a fucking gray and white or black and white silent film. But this movie is a lot more pleasing to watch. Just with that backdrop of Hawaii, it makes it a lot better. It is kind of a little bit slower, but it's slower, I feel like, because of Hawaii. You can see that things kind of go a little slower there. It's not fucking running and gunning LA or New York. It's slower there. You know what I mean? The people talk slower. It's just a lot more laid back, but that's not saying that they're on vacation laid back, the locals anyway. But the movie sort of moves at like a Hawaiian pace, if you could say that. The whole soundtrack's Hawaiian music and stuff like that. And it's easily my favorite movie shot there. I mean, 50 First Dates, you're using like Bruce Springsteen songs, and it's like, okay, I get what it is, but that's like a very two-dimensional film, not a lot of depth. It's a comedy, right? But it's not necessarily depicting Hawaii in this great way. I think this one depicts it in a great way because you're just seeing people sort of live their lives and deal with this crazy, crazy shit. And I don't know. I enjoy it, and it's super rewatchable for me. But I had a good time talking about it. I had a good time rewatching it. I'm excited to think of what movie I'm going to do next. There's a lot of movies that I have in mind, and it's just a matter of time before I fucking get to all of them. But this is a good one. I recommend it. It's kind of therapeutic to watch, and not in a way like you're not gonna. There's not a scene that really makes me cry. There's just scenes that there's just the whole movie. I just don't want to look away because it's like that perfect amount of pleasing to watch and intriguing to watch, and also just a little uncomfortable at times, but just enough to make you want to keep watching. And funny at times too. I mean, there was multiple times when I've seen this movie probably a dozen times. When I just rewatched it, had me laughing out loud because it's fucking hilarious at times. But that's what it is. And I don't know. I guess I can relate to this movie a little bit just because my dad died like 5 years ago, but not that much. But I understand why the characters sort of act how they act. It just makes a lot of sense. Nobody's really doing anything that is unrealistic. It's super practical in how things would unfold in that way when a family's going through something like this. I mean, I don't really know about the cheating too much, but that's a really cool part that they added to this, and them going to confront the Brian Spear and stuff like that and deal with him is a really good part of it too, because you're like, it's like they have a hunt. They're like, now we can leave, get out of town, leave this mom that's in a coma, and go hunting for a second and fucking go find this guy. And then the whole 25,000 acres as well. It's really dealing with a lot of stuff, and it's like, even one of the mom's friends says at one point, like, you're talking about her like this, and she's not here to defend herself. She's not here for them to have that conversation of like, you've been cheating on me. Why would you do this? What are we gonna do now? Are we gonna work our way? Are we gonna work through this, or is this the end, or what the hell? Like, she's not there for that. So he's kind of just has to figure it out on his own and shit like that. And that's a really interesting aspect too. So you're just dealing with so many different things. I love how many like layers and stuff like that it has. I don't know maybe if it's where I learn something new every time I watch it. I don't know if that's really happened the last few times I've watched it. It's one that I just love to revisit. I mean, maybe I do, but not like a Lost in Translation where it really sparks a new thing for me. But it still is just the same level of a enjoyable movie that it always has been and stuff like that. I think maybe this time I watched it, I sort of noticed more about the 17-year-old daughter, Alex's anger towards her mom. I think I was a lot more aware of that this time around, and how she tells the mom, and they're like, you know, say something to the mom. Say something to her when she's in a coma. I really hope I don't have to ever say something to someone that's in a coma, because that would just be really weird. And then she's like, sorry we weren't good enough for you. Sorry dad wasn't good enough for you, and stuff like that. And it's like, damn, she is pissed. She's just really resentful. But it's a great movie. This has been another episode of the Untitled Movie Show. My name is Brad. Comment, email, whatever. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you thought of the movie. I'll see you guys next time. Aloha.